Brother has soul for days. Hey everybody, welcome to the Ultimate YouTube channel. It's your girl, Rosalie. This is so freaking powerful. Guess what time it is? Let's keep this short and simple, but I had to come on here. So often we're stuck in our own little world, but it's all so much bigger than we realize. It's time for more Stan Walker, born in Melbourne, Victoria, and grew up in New Zealand. And we're going to check out his music. This one is called Back to the River.
I think in our lives, we all go through seasons. And seasons are forever changing. The highs, the lows, from being on top of the mountain to being in the valleys. And before reconciliation, before reclamation, before knowing who we are, before being able to stand true in our own mana motu hake, something has to die in order for new life to begin. This is the journey of my healing, of finding myself and going back to my awa, going back to my home, the beginning of a new season, the beginning of a new me, the start of a new life. Kua tai au ki tua, kua hoki a tōku awa, he Māori ahau, he tūhoi ahau, ake, ake, ake.
Real quick, let's pause and let's listen to this together. I want to take this in for a moment. We know often people say things like, well, there's highs and lows in life. We know of that dichotomy, dark and light, death and life, etc. But I think when we actually, as Dr. Irwin Yalom says, dare to stare at the sun, actually look at the thing that we can barely look at, which is death, which is life, which is asking the hard questions and dealing with the fact that we're going to die. What does that do with us? How do we perceive statements like so? Well, there's the valley and the mountains, and how does that affect us when we actually not only look at it as an observer from the outside looking in, but we internalize it and we start being honest about what that means for us. What are our mountains and valleys? If I read correctly, I think it said that Stan Walker had been or was diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2017. He is Maori, and I love how his music honors his culture, his heritage, bringing so much soul and so much authenticity to his music. But here I'm seeing the thematics a theme when it comes to in order to live, we must die. I'm seeing that, and we often find this in different cultures, religions, and philosophies, a search to understand what's the point of life. How can I find meaning if I'm going to die? And sometimes it could be a medical diagnosis, such as what Stan Walker went through. It could be the death of a loved one, or sometimes it could be things like a divorce or a job, losing a job, or significant stressful factors that have us going, what am I doing? What's the point of life? They trigger existential fears and questions that are human across the board. And so I love this honest conversation from the start that is not just romantically painting a picture of, oh, well, life is up and down, but really posing very profound questions. And if we dare, forcing us to think and stop and go, what does this mean for me? What part of me may have to die for me to find life? What will it take for me to go back home to my roots, to who I am, to who I'm called to be, and to make this life a life that was well worth lived? So that's a very powerful, poignant way to start this piece of music. Back to the river. Okay. Woo.
I've been so alone.
Okay.
Alone in my own head.
Ooh.
Nothing more to be said. Don't even know myself. And where did I go wrong?
Oh. Okay.
Thought that I would be okay. Wasn't meant to go this way. Now I gotta find myself. Yeah. Everything is changing. Am I the one to blame? Never felt the same as I did that day. Yeah. Should've given more, but there was before I couldn't give my all. So I walked away. Back to myself no more. I wanna start again. And I wanna be strong. So I'm looking for some inner peace. I'm trying to be a better me, so I can start again. Everything is changing. Am I the one to blame? Never felt the same as I did that day. Should've given more, but there was before I couldn't give my all, so I walked away. Now I feel like I'm losing my mind. Baby, I've run out of time. Can someone help me to find my way back to the river? Baby, I'm down on my knees. Oh, let it wash over me. All that I want to be free. Back in the river, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Baby, I've run out of time. Can someone help me to find my way back to the river? Baby, I'm down on my knees. Oh, let it wash over me. All that I want to be free. Back to the river.
My brother has soul for days and days and days. Yeah, that was beautiful. Okay, y'all. In light of the fact that I had read what I did about his diagnosis, and this goes to show just how much of the things we see and read influence also how we perceive things, because I had just read about his cancer diagnosis, and I'm so glad to hear that he is recovering and in remission and cancer-free. It made me look at this song differently. It made me feel like this plea with that day, I thought maybe that day is referring to when he found out he has cancer. And now him going, I've lost my way, take me back to the river. I'm trying to figure out who I am and what the purpose is. It made me look at this from an existential therapeutic standpoint, where we find things like a heavy diagnosis that puts our mortality into perspective. It brings up those questions a lot of times. Now, of course, we can have those thoughts throughout our life, and sometimes smaller or more significant events may trigger existential fears and death anxieties. But a diagnosis of such proportion as cancer, where often there may even be a very severe reality check with this may or may not lead to remission, this may or may not be resolved, that can trigger those questions and that pleading with God and this desire to figure out what's the point. Sadly, sometimes it takes those significant events in our life for us to actually look death in the face and deal with it. And if we do it right, and if we find a way through that, it can actually lead to an even more fulfilling life for the time we have. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes that reality check for us to go, wait a minute, what am I doing with my life? Who am I? What am I doing? Where am I going? And for us to use those death anxieties to live life well and live life fully. That's where my mind was going initially. Then as the song progressed, it felt almost like this could have been the perfect wedding song. This beautiful journey of trying to come back to who you love and your home, your family, your marriage. Now, when it first started, after this beautiful poetic introduction, it went straight to that soulful R&B love song track. I thought, oh snap, this is like as R&B and soulful as it gets. And the musical composition sounded like a beautiful lover's ballad. Beautiful. The way his voice is, the rasp, that soulful grit. It also had something very soulful R&B, but also gospel-like. And that, of course, was influenced because of the church. I loved the contrast between the Christian religious symbols, the church, the stained glass, as well as the Maori and the ingrained carvings. So that beautiful dance between religion and culture. But him being in this church and asking these poignant questions took me from not only looking at this from an existential standpoint and those questions we have and that longing we have, but now made me wonder if something had happened and that day that he's referring to may not have been the day of his diagnosis, but some other significant event where he felt like he lost himself. Was that because of fame? Was that because of something else? He's finding his way. He's pleading in church. He's seeking God. He's dressed all in white, which is often the case when a baptism of sorts is supposed to happen. Now his beautiful bride is being brought to shore in the canoe, and she's wearing white and looking beautiful and natural, and they come together and she baptizes him in the river. So very fitting to this idea of take me back to the river being in religion and in various spiritual practices and in various philosophies of life looked at as something so beautiful and eternal. The river is always flowing. It never stops. It's mind-blowing to me. The understanding these sayings that say be like water, right? Ice, water. Sometimes we need to be ice. Sometimes we need to flow like the river. Sometimes we evaporate. I mean, there's different ways to look at it, but the idea of water is very therapeutic. It's brings people peace and comfort. It makes us ponder life and try to understand things. So the river, even in religious sense, often has this idea of take me to the river, right? Wade in the water. It's tied to spirituals and hymns and gospel songs. The river being something that will bring us a fresh beginning, either a devotion to a religion or this sense of renewal. Again, him wearing white, being washed clean. So it now made me wonder, did something else happen where he feels like he lost his way and he's trying to find his way back in his marriage, in his family, in his sense of self? It could be all of the above, of course, through the diagnosis, through turmoils in life, relationally, and with himself. But it's this beautiful dance of expressing our human desire to go back down to the river, where we will find peace, where things can be washed away, where we're back in tune with who we really are and who we really love. Powerful song, so much soul. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next ride. Heyo!